OG Locos! What's up, my homies? OG Locos back. Haven't done live in a while. I thought I'd do a quick one today. So I want you to load on up because this one will be short and quick. Trying to get back in the groove. Talk a little bit about some history on the old family reds on the pure OG Locos. OG Locos are no longer a old family reds. They are their own family of dogs. They're OG Locos. So I'm just going to start promoting them as pure OG Locos. Over 35 years of family breeding. And they're heavily line bred off the old family red nose Hemphill and Lightner dogs. But for 35 years in family breeding, they're now OG Locos. So I'm just going to start calling them pure OG Locos. It is what it is. So hopefully we get some people loading up here because I'm going to make this one short and quick. What we're going to talk about today is what did Bob Hemphill mean when he said the Hemphill old family reds will willingly take their death when family bred. I want to get into that a little bit, talk about that. This was something he published in, I think, the early 1950s. It was an advertisement for his dogs, and basically that was one of the traits they were known for. And if you're if you're breeding true to the old family reds, you would want to make sure that your modern day old family reds that are line bred off those old Hemphill dogs have that trait that they would be willing to take their death. And I want to get into that a little bit, explore it, and talk about it. He also advertised they were the gamest ever bred. And I want to talk about those two topics. So it's going to be very short and precise, just to focus on those issues. And hopefully this is people can learn from this. So this is a little history. This is all I'm talking about is history, entertainment purposes, and understanding how these dogs were bred at one time and whether those values back in the early days of creating these dogs are values that we even value today. Societies change, values change. So these are going to be old values that I want to talk about a little bit. So load on up, man. We're going to talk, get going. And then we're going to talk a little bit about OG Locos program and how I'm trying to breed true to the old family red family of dogs. So I think we all know the history, and I'll just bring everyone up to speed a little bit. The history of the old family reds, it was a progression. They came in waves. Prior to the development of the American Pit Bull Terrier breed, you had fighting dogs in other countries, England, Ireland, Scotland, Spain, Europe, pretty much Europe. There were fighting dogs in those countries back, years, maybe hundreds of years prior to the creation of the American Pit Bull Terrier breed, which pretty much started in like the 1890s. That's when the first breed registries were. So when they were creating the American Pit Bull Terrier breed, many of the breeders were using fighting dogs from other countries and using those dogs to develop the American Pit Bull Terrier breed as a purebred dog. And one of those strains was the Irish old family reds that came from Ireland. They were basically a fighting terrier, bulldog terrier mix that had been bred in Ireland for generations. And these dogs were known for being very deep game. And they were valued for deep gameness. And the early American Pit Bull breeders in America started blending these Irish Old Family Red imports into their dogs, their family dogs, to create the American Pit Bull Terrier. So that's really where the first uh, history of the Irish Old Family Reds comes into play. They were not pit bulls; they predate pit bulls, the American Pit Bull Terrier breed, but they were also part of the genetics and the forefathers and foremothers of the American Pit Bull breed. So they were imports, and they were valued for deep gameness. That's what they were known for. Now, this is my theory, just based on research. Uh, the terrier is where the gameness comes from. So a lot of those early dogs, when they were bred, they were pretty much, we know in history, they were line bred off the extinct white terrier in England. That's where most of these pit bulls, fighting breeds, were based off. So that breed's extinct. But it was a very game terrier. It was called the white terrier. It's no longer around. And those dogs were used, crossed on bulldogs to create the bull terrier crosses that were used for fighting, bull baiting and fighting, and throughout the United Kingdom and in Europe. So a strain of these bull terrier crosses using the white terrier were line bred and family bred over in Ireland. And because they were doing a lot of tight family breeding, tight inbreeding, the dogs started showing the recessive traits, which is the red nose with the red toenails and all recessive traits. They started showing that because they were all tightly bred. And they were also tested, and they were renowned for gameness. Now, I believe those early Irish Old Family Reds were more of a terrier, on the terrier side. A very game terrier, bull terrier mix. They weren't really pit bulls yet, but they were an Irish fighting dog, whatever you want to call them. So in America, you had some early breeders like Leitner and Colby and Corcoran and Shipley and Feely, the early pioneers that created the American Pit Bull Terrier here in America. And in those days, when they were creating the breed, your dog had to win a fight to get purebred papers. So it was one of those breeds, registries, that you couldn't just bring a dog and say, well, I want American Pit Bull Terriers. You had to show your dog in a match, and the dog had to win a match. And then you would take that match report and submit it to the United Kennel Club, I believe, at the time, and the American Dog Breeders Association. And once you showed your dog met the standard of a fighting pit bull, then they would give you papers. Okay, you'd be able to register them as an American Pit Bull Terrier. And that's how the breed started. This is back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when dogfighting was still legal here in America. So really, in the early days, they were a mix of bull terriers, but you don't really know what people were blending into their fighting dogs, because as long as the dog was matched and want to fight, you'd get papers. And many of them had unknown, or it said import, because that was at the early part of the breed. Now, because dog fighting is tested in the pit, the superior fighting dogs, and it was something that you were betting on, rose to the top. So the cream came to the top. So those strains of fighting dogs, based on the early dogs that they were using, the best pit bulls kept winning and winning, and then they started breeding off those pit bulls, and that's where the cream comes to the top. Is like other strains of dogs couldn't compete with the American Pit Bull Terrier, and even other strains of fighting dogs couldn't compete with the American Pit Bull Terrier, because they were using the best of the American Pit Bull Terrier fighting dogs to create the breed. So that's how the breed got started. Leitner took some of these early Irish imports and English imports and started creating his own family of dog. And history goes on to say that his family had actually been breeding some of these early imports as far back as the Civil War, and they were in his family for generations. But it is a known fact that him and Colby, during the Irish immigrant, when they were coming to America, that him and Colby would be at the docks, Ellis Island docks, and would get these Irish fighting dogs from Irish immigrants and buy them off them and use those dogs and blend them into their fighting dog program, into their family of dogs. And Colby Galty is a good example. He was the sire of the first UKC pit champion, Tudor's Fighting Peter. So Tudor's Fighting Peter was a son of Galty. Galty was an Irish import, or he was a son of two Irish imports, and he sired the first UKC fighting dog here in America. So there's a little history. And then the Leitner Red, or the red-nosed dogs, they were known as the Leitner red-nosed dogs, got a reputation as being some of the better fighting dogs that were competing and winning in that area where the cream came to the top. Highly valued, the Leitner blood, even today, if you have anything that goes back to Leitner blood, it's still a highly respected, highly valued strain of dogs because they were so dominant in the pit in the early days. And a lot of family of dogs, a lot of modern day family of dogs are line bred or carry Leitner blood somewhere in them. Okay, so those were the pioneers of the American Pit Bull Terrier. Now, the story goes that Leitner got out of them, he moved, and he started a whole new strain of dogs. He moved from Louisiana to Colorado, and in Colorado, he knew he was no longer breeding the Leitner red-nosed dogs. He started breeding a new strain, totally separate strain of Leitner black-nosed dogs, and they were smaller, and he liked the smaller dogs. So the old Irish or the old Leitner red-nosed dogs, there wasn't very many of them, and you have now a new generation of breeders coming into play, and this is a story Dan McCoy and Bob Hemphill. They wanted to get the early they wanted to get some of that old Leitner blood. Anyway, I gotta take a break. I'm gonna have to continue this, so I'm gonna continue this. Okay, bye bye.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.